There are lots of good parking brake videos out there. I'm not going to get close to doing the quality of those things. I'm going to explain how these parking brakes work, and I'm going to explain what I found to be the biggest trouble I had, the two troubles I had in getting this this parking brake on. Getting off was a snap, getting it on was not so easy. This is a Dodge Jeep Grand Cherokee 2015. I'm just going to talk about some of the parts here. So these are disc or drum brakes, I should say. So parking brake is two pieces. That's the new piece, and that corresponds to what I'm showing right there. And there's another mirror image that goes on the bottom, and these are exactly the same. You can put them upside down, back and forth, it doesn't matter. They're held together by two series of springs. So this spring holds these two ends together, and then in the middle here you can see a threaded a threaded bolt going into a little, I guess, a little chassis or chamber. You can't see it, but I'll show it later, but there's a little type of a gear in there, and it's threaded onto the bolt, and when you use a screwdriver, I don't have one handy, but to turn that call it a nut, it increases the distance between this the top of the bolt and the rest of the assembly, and what it does is it spreads out the two pieces of the two. All right, what I'm going to start with is this screw here. So what I did, I was talking before about this this toothed bolt. You can see how I'm using a screwdriver to turn this away from me, and what that's doing is that is increasing the length of the bolt, and that'll stretch the springs out. So you want to go the other way and decrease the size of the bolt, and that'll just take tension off that spring. And this spring is mounted in the back of the call it the assembly, and the two little prongs are pointing out. Right there is one, and there's another one on the top. Just take a screwdriver and just force them. That came off really easy, so that's loose. The other side has actually two springs. You can see the one. I'm not going to try and get that spring out. It's way easier to get these two springs out here. So there's a spring hidden behind this. There's one of the ends, and the other end is down there somewhere, but you'll imagine where it is. Just like you did on the other spring, just take a screwdriver and force the little end up through the hole, and the spring will pop out. Then these two little clips here, just use a pliers or a screwdriver and just press the end down, and just push, and this whole thing will come right off. This is a real hassle getting back on, and I'll talk about that later. Clip down here on the bottom, or opposite, I should say. All right, so the springs are all done on both sides. Those two clips are removed, and then you can just start to pry the two pieces off. There's another spring down here. You could probably easily use a screwdriver or a needle nose pliers, and just undo the clips, and you can take all these pieces off. All right, all the screws and springs are undone, at least one on each side. There still is a spring on this side connected, but since you've undone this side, you can basically just take this whole the set of shoes right off. Okay, so just pull those off and remove them. Keep the hardware unless you bought a hardware kit. I want to talk about this. I mentioned it before. I'm going to go in detail. So in there, right where the tip of my finger is a cable that connects to your parking brake inside the car. When you press it, that cable goes in. So it basically expands these two wings and forces the shoes out, like I said. This piece comes off. Take it off. It'll just, I might be able to do it right now, but maybe not. But it just comes off, and then give it a good clean off. This will explain what I'm trying to talk about. So there's that little claw. This was facing out before. You couldn't see this. That little claw grabs onto that cable through the eye, just like threading a needle, basically. And what you need to do is make sure that you use up little pliers and grab that, pull it out as far as you can. When you do press the parking brake, this retracts into the guts of the car. And if you've done that after you've released all this equipment, you won't be able to get it out unless you pull with a needle nose or something. Okay, take this, put brake cleaner all over it, lubricate the heck out of it, and then I'll lubricate it with, I probably put anti-seize on it. I'm going to do that. There, that's cleaned up about as well as I can get it. There's a little locking pin on there, a half pin. half washer. Like I said, is pin. Take that off, push it out with a screwdriver, and get all the gunk out. I've been kind of going on about this a lot because this is the key to your parking brake. In my car, this thing had been all kind of rusted out, and this was not moving hardly at all. So, you know, when the parking brake wants to retract, it wouldn't retract, so you might be driving with the parking brake on. So take that apart. You cannot take the bolt out, but I would shove lots of lubricant in. All right, reattach the cable fitting right there. That little arm on the top, you just press that in, and the little hook goes out, and you can slide it through the eye of the cable and then connect it, and then just lays in there nice and tight. Parking brake, the two sides. I've cleaned off all the springs. I cleaned the heck out of that bolt. I lubricated it. Just if you want to use this for reference, or you're having trouble remembering where stuff goes, this is it. So this bolt here fits. There's two slots, and they fit on the flat, the ends of the parking brake sides that have flat edges, and then over here there are these notches in here, and those fit into the two notches here on the bottom, right there, and then one up on the top. Okay, so use that as reference if you need. See on these tabs that pop out. I'm starting to put the shoes back on, so I'm going to start on the bottom. I've got the clip attached here. I'm going to put I'm going to slide the spring in now that I've got it, and then I'm going to do the top. Get the spring, I'm calling it the long spring, over here by the hinged fitting. What I did is I've got the shoe loose on the bottom, I've got it loose on the top, and I put the spring into the bottom first. I attach the little hook in the rear, and it runs out of the top of the rear. And then before I fit it in behind this the hinge fitting, I took the shoe, I pulled it out here, connected the hook, the spring way out here. Then I was able to easily feed the spring behind that hinge fitting. And then I'll just have to fiddle with all this to get it in place. Like I said, I just had to fiddle with all this. So I've got again, I'll just recap. The notch, this hinged fitting has two notches. One on the bottom fits into the notch at the bottom of the drum here, and it fits into, the top notch fits into the notch of this drum, okay? And then the two ends of the drum should just kind of come together on this piece of metal. When it's all connected and together, those two will fit snugly on that metal tab. And then to get this screw up, just use a needle nose pliers and just pull it up and try to jam an end of the spring into the hole. Just get it in there, and then use a screwdriver after and push it in. So I've got this set up. I put the clip into the top, attach the top rotor or a drum, but before I did that, I made sure that I reattached this this fixture here that is like the adjuster. Okay, so you put that, there's two slots on each end, and they just fit into the top of the shoe on each side. Should be straightforward. Get that in, then clip the shoe in place. All right, everything is on, so I've got that spring over here on the outside in place. I've got this clip and another clip on the bottom in. There was another spring in the rear, of course. This spring here is back in next to the adjusting thread. So, and notice I've got that dialed right all the way in. When I took this parking brake off, this was screwed out a little bit. This is about a 1/4 inch, so I'm going to put that back. And then if you want to, it's a good thing, I think, just to take the rotor, the old rotor, the new one, whatever you want. Probably the old one's better. Just slip it back on and make sure that everything is smooth. Last thing I did is I put the old rotor on just to make sure that the new rotor will fit. Sometimes these shoes need to get just jiggled around a little bit till they fit. And then I had someone depress the parking brake, and then I just kind of wiggled the rotor just to see if it clamped. I wanted to see motion and noise and everything, and it worked just fine. And then if you do want to adjust the tolerance of the brake, and what I mean by that is when you depress the brake, if this bold here is if there's a lot of threads on it, there are more threads than not, that means that the collar, the shoe collar, is out a little bit. Well, not out a little bit, it's out further out than it would be as if there were fewer threads, okay? So what you're doing is getting the shoes as close to the inside of the rim, the rotor, so the rotor rim as possible. You don't want to rub, obviously, the shoes on the rim. That'd be as if the emergency brake was permanently deployed. So what you want to do is just depress the emergency brake, safety brake, parking brake, sorry, a couple times, and just see if the shoes are grabbing onto the rim. If so, then, and if you're happy with the way that the foot pedal goes down, like you should feel some pressure, I don't know, halfway down, let's say, then that's a very good thing. If you don't feel anything, if the emergency brake goes down really easy, and if you don't feel any sort of gripping on the rotor, what you should do is take a screwdriver, let's use my finger, and you just spin this little gear to the left, right? And that will increase the thread that is visible, and then that will spread the collars out a little bit to the point where you've decreased the tolerance, the space between the collar and the inside of the rotor, and then when you press the brake, even the little bit of excess increase in circumference will result in the rotor, the shoes touching the inside of the rotor. Hope I explained that well. Anyways, that is it for this video. Good luck.